Welcome to Bizemag podcast. I am Dr. Vaneeta Aggarwal, CEO and founder of Bizemag Media. Today, our guest, as always, is an excellent professional and book author. She has written a book series and a book which are best-selling across her neighborhood, and we are here to know more about these books. Welcome, Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro, to our show.
Well, thank you, Vaneeta. It's a pleasure to be here.
I will introduce Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro to my audience through her short biography. She is an award-winning author, speaker, and educator. She earned her doctorate in education and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard after a very successful and rewarding 35-year career as a teacher. Marni's 2020 Best Books award-winning spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, and her more recent series, True Deceit False Love, have both been prominently endorsed. She was born in South, raised her children in the Midwest, and lives in the Caribbean. In addition to her speaking engagements and various writing endeavors, Marni is a contributing author to numerous anthology books. So very pleasant to have you here, Dr. Marni. So we start our interview by asking Dr. Marni to shed some light on her journey of such a brilliant, being in education field and coming to writing these books.
Yes, well, it has been a wonderful journey. Of course, all journeys have some challenges, but I was a special ed teacher, high school teacher for 35 years in the Chicago, Illinois suburbs in the United States. And 12 of those years, I was an adjunct professor at Northern Illinois University. I was living what they call the American dream, raising my two children, working in a wonderful career that I loved, enjoying a beautiful home and beautiful life. And at some point, a light bulb came on where I realized that the marriage that I was in for 27 years was nothing that I wanted to stay in. I found out all sorts of things that just did not resonate with my values and my integrity. And so I chose to leave that situation. And this is part of the journey, realizing that it was extremely abusive. Even though while I was in it, even though I had red flags, I didn't really realize the extent of the abuse. And after I left, I ended up having a garage sale because I lost my home, I lost all my money, even lost an adult child to parental alienation, which was devastating enough. But at this garage sale, I had numerous spiritual experiences that just could not be explained by, tangible evidence, just in my thinking. I actually struggled with believing that our consciousness goes on and that there's life beyond our earthly death here. But I was shown so many beautiful things. They're called STEs, like a spiritually transformative event or encounter. And they were so life-changing that I needed to write a book about it. So the book I wrote is God Came to My Garage Sale. And it won the 2020 Best Books Award. And it was endorsed by James Redfield, who is the best-selling author of the Celestine Prophecy series of books. So it was really amazing to have this kind of support. It also prompted me to do a lot of research into near-death experiences and people that have experienced miracles that have changed their lives. And so that was very exciting. And as a result, I really have found that writing has just been very, very therapeutic. And I decided to leave the Chicago suburbs and move to the Caribbean. So my partner, Rick, and I have traveled the world. As I had talked with you, I've spent a month in India, which was just one of the highlights of my travels. But I love the idea of learning about other cultures and connecting with people of all different faiths, ethnicities, backgrounds. You know, people are people. We all have a soul. And I've always been very open to that. And so with all our travels to numerous places, we decided the Caribbean was the place we wanted to live. So I'm streaming right now from the beautiful, sunny US Virgin Islands. And so that is how that book came to be. And, you know, it's been very well received. I think right now it is actually the book that is featured in 6 different book clubs right now around the world, because it's a very easy book to read, and people find it interesting, which I'm so thrilled about.
Wow, that's really a great journey, I must say, and a very brave and courageous of yourself to come out of tough phase of your life. I understand that completely, that travel is actually very, very therapeutic when you meet people from different cultures and you see different regions. And, you know, for me also, like, travel is something I always look forward to. And it takes you out of your current world, current routine, and it breaks those kind of norms and fixations that is around in your mind. It opens up so much dimensions around our thinking process also, that it helps us to transform from our own fixed world to explore new things, come out, and, you know, it's kind of new birth when we meet people and we explore ourselves more. So that's very great sharing from your side.
You say that just beautifully. Yes, you just summarized travel beautifully.
So Dr. Marni, tell us something.
It's very inspiring for people to realize that they can go through traumatic experiences, including domestic violence or parental alienation, and somehow find hope, because eventually the truth prevails. Justice doesn't always prevail in our court systems, but truth really does. And I think it's very important for people to stay true to themselves and to their values. My values are of love and compassion, forgiveness, honesty, goodness. And I've always had those values, and throughout any kind of challenges, positive or negative, I stay true to those values. And as a result, you know, I can feel good about who I am and hopefully inspire others to have the hope to carry on, that some of the experiences are temporary, and that you really can, if you persevere and you stay true to your values and finding your passions, whether it's in business or whether it's creative or artistic, finding your passion helps you live a more fulfilling life.
True, wonderfully said. So Dr. Marni, tell us something about your series of books that you wrote.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I have, part of my healing process is writing, and there were so many terms when I was investigating, you know, the family trauma end of things that I didn't even understand. I didn't even know that some of what I was experiencing had a name for it. So I would write down terms and phrases. And as time went on, I had over 100 terms and phrases for me to look up and sort of connect the dots as to how that relates to my experience. Well, after a couple of years, that list turned into thousands. And so I wrote the first book in this series, True Deceit False Love. It's 15,555 terms on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. So this was prominently endorsed by Jennifer Harmon, Dr. Harmon, who is a researcher about parental alienation, Dr. Sam Bakinen, who is a professor of psychology, who speaks a lot on narcissism, and as well as some very famous kind of influencers in the YouTube community. Lisa A. Romano, the Breakthrough Life Coach, Tracy A. Malone of Narcissist Abuse Support, who just came out with her own fantastic book, Divorcing Your Narcissist. And then Tamara Sweeney, who advocates for families, and she has an organization called Love Dominates. So the first book of this series is just a list of terms, and people have found that just reading these terms can help in the healing process, to realize that you are not out there alone experiencing this, that actually a lot of men and women experience the traumatic negative consequences of being in a toxic relationship, whether it is your romantic partner, your spouse, your best friend, a family member, it could be a coworker. Oftentimes in business, people find that they are in toxic situations. So a book like this can help make sense of it. And so that is the first book in this series. I have written books 2 and 3 already. One is on acrostic poetry, and the third is the Survivor's Workbook. So to give someone a tangible tool to work through their issues, whether it is trying to deal in the workplace with someone who is making things very hard for them, or whether you are trying to decide whether to stay in a certain relationship or not. Both of these books, I just have pictures of the covers because they will be coming out in a few weeks. And so, and then the fourth book, will be on some free verse poetry. So in my healing journey, I found writing and the use of words to be, very therapeutic. Other people might find other ways to deal with the traumas they've experienced, but this seems to work for me, and it has worked for a number of other people. And again, I won't rattle off all the amazing people that have endorsed this. You can find that on my website under the menu tab Praise, but there are a number of influencers and people that really get it, that are out there helping and making a difference in this world. They have found value in this book series, True Deceit False Love, and have endorsed that as well.
Thank you so much. That's great to know about these 4 book series. And as you said, my dear audience, this not only talk about domestic abusive relationships, it talks about toxic relationships at workplaces, at offices, or any kind of toxic relationships around you, which, how do you know whether it's a toxic relationship? First thing is, if any kind of interaction with that relation causes you uneasiness, discomfort, that means there is some sort of toxicity is there. Either it can be sorted out by communication, or it cannot be sorted out and you are not at fault. Definitely you are not at fault.
Sometimes, closure happens with no closure. So sometimes when you realize something is toxic, like you said, you have this uneasy feeling, most definitely one piece of advice is to follow your gut intuition. If something doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right. And oftentimes you can go, months and years and even decades in relationships without realizing that person, for whatever reason, their jealousy or their own inadequacies, they are sabotaging you behind your back. And like we said, that happens in the workplace, but it also happens in domestic situations. So you've got to not blame yourself that you did not, realize this earlier, and that's very easy. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, how could I go 27 years and not really take action on my gut feeling that things were just not right, that there was abuse going on? But, you know, I believe God has a plan for us. And in my case, if I would have left earlier, I may not have enjoyed, you know, 20 years of beautiful interactions and experiences with my children. You know, because if people, when they leave an abuser, they don't usually let you go easily. There's a lot of stalking and harassment and even legal threats that go on after you have, you know, escaped the situation. And so, you know, as much as I'd like to say, wow, I wish I would have figured this out earlier, I could have saved myself so much heartache, and you know, loss. The loss and is significant. But, you know, I believe that there's a journey and there's a reason for everything. So at least my light bulb did go on at a certain time, and then it opened up my eyes to discern when it comes to other relationships. You know, I really am a lot more cautious now about who I let into my world, into my intimate world. And, you know, so we can't be hard on ourselves. And abusers, whether they're in the workplace or domestically, you know, they're calculating, they're malevolent, they have an agenda. Don't be hard on yourself because you don't think that way. It's very hard to think like a criminal when you're not a criminal. It's very hard to think of an abuse, you know, like what an abuser would do if you're not an abuser. So we need to cut ourselves some slack, and you know, but it is a journey. The healing journey is a long one. You know, and so whatever tools are out there, whether it's your podcast, you know, whether it's research, other books, or whether it's, you know, the creative arts, to heal yourself, all of those things will be helpful. And then also take good care of yourself. You know, it's kind of an overused term to say practice self-love, but really that's very important. Make sure that you're eating nutritious, organic foods, that you're getting restorative sleep, that you're, you know, I chose to move to the Caribbean because I wanted to surround myself with the ocean and nature and get more grounded that way. You've got to do what works for you, but taking care of yourself is part of the healing journey. And I'd like to think that, you know, my books, God Came to My Garage Sale, and the whole 4-book series of True Deceit False Love will just be one of many tools that some people can have to use to help them on their healing journey so that they can self-actualize and they can be safe and they can pursue a happy, fulfilling life. Because I'm testament to that. I could have very easily given up and been negative and just struggled to find a reason to go on. But I didn't. I have a light within me, and I believe that God is on my side, and I have just believed that maybe these experiences were part of my journey here on earth.
Truly said. I agree 100% to each word that you said in this last word. And I would suggest all my audience, be it women or men, that it's very important to, stand by yourself, to take care of yourself. If you are in a toxic relationship, as Dr. Marni just told, through her own experience, she has lived this experience. It's very important to take care of yourself, because if you are not strong, who is going to take care of yourself? And at many times, you cannot reason with the abuser.
We cannot control what other people do, but we can certainly control ourselves and how we react or respond. And I choose to respond with love and goodness and honesty. Honesty is a big value of mine. And especially since the person I was with for so many years was so very dishonest. And so it's very important to just realize you can only control yourself. And like we had mentioned before, sometimes the way to begin to heal from this is to walk away from this. And, many of us, especially loving, communicative, reasonable people, want to talk this out and come to some sort of agreement or understanding or explain ourselves why we don't want to be in this relationship or something. And I have found with some abusers, whether it's a workplace situation, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, sometimes it's better just the less you say, the better it is. So just to walk away, you don't owe anyone any explanations. You were smart enough to realize what was going on, and you just took steps to take care of yourself.
That's true. And whenever I meet somebody who is making surrounding or environment around me toxic, I feel, sometimes you can communicate, okay, but very subtly. It's never a hard way communication, because other person never accepts the fault within him or her. So it's always better, because such kind of negative or toxicity affects your health also, because constantly you are thinking about it, you are worrying about it, it's making you discomfortable, it is making you uncomfortable. You will stop eating properly, you will lose your focus on your work, on yourself, and it takes a toll on your health also. So it's better to move away from that negativity.
Right, definitely. These emotional negative situations can affect you physically, like you're saying. And so a perfectly healthy person could develop an autoimmune disorder or something like that because of the toxicity. So it's very important. And then also, what part of the healing process is, for us to look at ourselves and take some responsibility for why we chose to stay in a particular relationship, or why we chose not to confront someone in a work environment. What are our core wounds? What are our childhood traumas that might have led to this? I mean, we know that we're honest, good people, but what is our role in allowing this to happen to us? I also choose not to stay in a victim role at all. I'm more of a survivor, and actually beyond that, a thriver, because I, don't spend much time thinking about the negative people and situations in my life. I don't have time for it anymore. I have too many beautiful people in my life that I have since come in contact with. I have my own interests and endeavors, and then just this beautiful life in the Caribbean. I'm, every day is filled with another fun adventure. So life is good, and life can be good. And if you find yourself in a tough situation, think about picking up my books and or looking into other resources that would be helpful for you to just guide you through this trauma, and so you can realize you're not alone, that other people have experienced this, and that you are loved, and you are worthy, and you deserve to have a happy life.
Perfect. I think this is perfect ending for our conversation today. Thank you so much, Dr. Marni, for being with us and sharing such brilliant, inspiring ideas and thoughts with our audience. I'm sure your books must be very, very valuable for each one of my audience. The buy link and Dr. Marni's website would be available on YouTube description. Do go for it. Thank you once again.
Sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.